Good afternoon, traders, and welcome to this week's weekly market analysis class, Monday the 9th of April. Before we get started, as always, please understand that any advice in today's session is of a general nature only and that your personal circumstances have not been taken into consideration. Okay, let's kick off. Let's have a look at what's happened in the markets last week and what's happening this week, and we'll analyze our charts. As you have any questions, please type them in. For the newer people in the room, I see a lot of new names. If you have gathered some questions throughout the week, just paste them in. As I see them, I will try and blend them into whatever we're discussing. Even if they're off topic, I'm more than happy to answer them for you. Okay, let's have a look at what's happening. Let's kick off with the US last week, and there's a lot happening in the US at the moment. The main talking point, or main action point at the moment, should I say, is the so-called trade war between the US and China. For those of you who don't know, the US basically announced a $50 billion worth of tariffs on China imports. Immediately, China retaliated with their own tariffs back to the US, and also with a disclaimer that they would be acted upon should the US act upon theirs. So that's how it all started. Towards the end of last week, we saw the US, or Mr. Trump, announce instead of backing off the initial $50 billion, they announced a $100 billion worth of tariffs upon China, basically increasing the tensions. Again, China warned that they would retaliate, but they were willing to negotiate. So that's where it's at the moment. Most of the volatility on the US side is coming from those negotiations. Also on the US dollar, they're in the process of their NAFTA trade agreements, which predominantly affect Canada, and an initial preliminary agreement could be reached later this week at the summit in Peru. This would, of course, be pro-Canadian dollar news, and we saw from non-farm payrolls on Friday, we got the combination of poor US jobs and good Canadian job numbers, so the US CAD consequently followed suit in accordance to pro-CAD favor. This week, if we have a look at what we have in terms of data, we have the PPI numbers on Tuesday, CPI. I think the pick of the bunch is Thursday morning, 4 a.m., and that's the FOMC meeting. And essentially, we are everybody's expecting that there will be a rate hike. So let's have a look at see what happens on Thursday. Should there be a rate hike, probably it won't move the market as much as people think, because it's very much factored in already as almost a certainty. So let's just see what they say regarding to when the next move may be and things of that nature. Okay, let's have a look at locally while we're on the topic of the tariffs that are being threatened to be imposed on China. This will affect our local Aussie dollar, as we very much depend on China's economy. Particularly, they purchase a lot of our mining goods, our iron and our commodities. But if the tariffs do get imposed, as I said, it would hurt our Aussie dollar. But should they not, and they come through these negotiations and nothing really comes about, which often that is a case and what can happen, this would actually probably be positive data, positive news for the Aussie dollar, which at the moment is trying to find a bit of a bottom, and we have been getting better and better, or more positive and more positive data in terms of raw numbers just recently. So let's see what happens with all that, and it pretty much does depend on the China situation. We move along to the euro. We have a monetary policy meeting towards the end of the week, and also we have Mr. Draghi will be speaking. Recent data from Europe has been negative and surprising the market on the downside, particularly the data from Germany. The Euro USD is still trading in a range, and we'll have a look at that when we look at our charts. But we really need to break out of that region before the next move becomes clearer for us. Finally, if we look at the GBP, we have the production numbers due on Wednesday, and Governor Carney will be speaking for the Bank of England at the end of the week. Now, surprisingly, the sterling has been quite resilient, given that all three PMI data releases last week were a decline for the month of March. It seems that investors are counting on the Bank of England to increase rates, which has maintained the currency up. So there you have it. I think in terms of data this week, the currency that's probably going to be affected the most purely by data releases is going to be the Euro USD. So take note of that. Guys, these times that I'm showing you for the newer people in the room, they're in my local time, which is Australian Eastern Standard Time. Please note we are no longer in daylight savings. So in other words, I'm talking Sydney time. All right, let me bring forward my charts. Let's start to analyze the majors. If you do have any questions, please, as I said, just type them in and I will be more than happy to address them for you. Let's kick it off with the Aussie dollar. Okay, so at the moment, it seems that we could be forming a little bit of a bottom here. So should China come good out of these trade war situation, we could see our Aussie dollar bounce back in that direction. That's what I was referring to. But for those of you who know me for a little while, I tend to trade what I see. Technically, I'm about a 90% technical trader, 10% fundamentals. Unless it's a very, very strong fundamental reason to be in a trade, it's usually I'm in on the trade on its technical merits. And when the fundamentals confirm, or the technicals confirm my fundamentals, that's when it actually gives me a nicer feeling about the trade and a little bit more confidence in the trade. So when I look at this particular chart, I can't help to think that this chart looks to me like, we are going down. So it's opposing everything which I've just said. So you need to determine what type of trader you're going to be and how you're going to sit on this. So I tend to trade what I see. So when I look at this, and last week we didn't get an opportunity to do a class on Monday because of Easter Monday situation, but the previous class, what we were looking for a pullback and trying to get in on a trade in this direction. Now, there was only one there really. It wasn't the nicest entry that I've seen, but I didn't call that one out. When I look at this chart right now, it's a little bit confusing. This almost looks like the candle situation that wants to be the entry, but it wasn't really. It doesn't have the criteria that I'm looking for. So the problem, here lays the problem. If I'm looking for a pullback, okay, to get my entry and to do this pullback already you can see is going to be higher than that last high. Now, if we focus on the pullbacks, the highs, it goes from there to there. We can see that they're going down, okay? Look where the market is right now. When I look at the market right now, which we are here, for it to pull back, it's almost certainly going to have to go above this level, which would give me a level here, which now gives me a dilemma, and it's not the type of trade that I would be looking for to continue in this direction. So I'm just going to hold off on this one. Questions being asked. A nice support. Give me a second. So if I start to draw anything like this, we could possibly, so what Matteo is saying is there's a support line forming. What about, can we look for a trade over here in this direction. Is that what you're saying, Matteo? That's how I read your statement. That's what I think you're saying. That would be that would be valid, and that would be a valid reason to look for a trade. So let's leave that line in there. On the top side, unless I go down into a smaller time division, like a 4-hour, no, it doesn't look good. Okay, so look, to be honest, what I really want is I want to leave this area. This area I want to leave. I either want it to break through or I want it to break up. Until I leave that area, it's still it's not clear enough for me. Okay, so Aussie dollar this week, let's leave this line in there. If the market does come to meet you over here, let's look to see if you have some kind of price action situation, and you may attempt to trade off that to bounce it off that line. Okay, other than that, there's nothing much happening on the Aussie dollar. All right, let's move on to the Euro USD. Okay, as I mentioned, the Euro USD is still ranging. You can see that I've got these lines up there, and I'm just going to extend them out. We're still inside of that region. We haven't really left it. So the next direction, we need to get out of this area before it becomes clearer for us. If you have a look at my moving averages, they're very, very tight together. It's a clear sign that of a ranging market. To be honest, even if this one came down to here, unless I get a really nice signal, I don't even feel like I want to attempt that range type trade. I would feel more comfortable attempting it from the top down than from the bottom. But let's just see. Let's see if it shows up. The best thing you can do is just mark your charts, leave these lines in there, and let's see how it plays out for us. Okay. Other than that, this is probably one of the least clear charts for an easy next trade opportunity. All right, so let's leave that one alone. Let's move to the US yen. Okay, let's have a look. Okay, US yen, I think in the daily call last week or one of those days or somewhere, I don't remember, we called out this one as a trade in this direction. It did move down, and I'm not sure if it hit the first target or was very, very, very close. It's now come and done it again, but now what I'm noticing is that the last highs have started to go a little bit higher, so it could be that we are reversing trend. It's not clear yet. Let me see if I can see something on a smaller time division. On a 4-hour chart, there's a little bit of a rising wedge. Let me see what the distance is from here to there, about 85. Okay, I don't mind this rising wedge. This is a nice one. Let me see what it looks like on a daily. Yeah, it makes sense. Okay, so I've dropped into a 4-hour chart. Okay, so what I would be looking for, if we can come down to this line, and somewhere on that line I can produce a price action reversal pattern, so preferably like an inside candle. So let's say there's a lot of new people in the class, so let me just try and draw it out for you. Give me one moment. So what I would be looking for is something like this. So let's say I get a red candle somewhere like that, and then immediately after it I get the green candle, and it's an inside candle where the green one is inside completely of the red one. Well, then the way that you would trade this is at the break of the inside candle, we would trade this in the upward direction as that. So essentially what I'm saying is, if the market was to come down and produce this little pattern right here on the line, and now this line has been met, it's got 1, 2, 3. That would be 4 touches. So the line is solid. It's solid on the other side as well. We got 1, 2, 3 touches up to the top. So if we were to produce such a pattern there or thereabouts, well then that trade would be on. And if it does and it goes up to this side, then I would be willing to go for it again. The only thing that I'm looking for as that I need to be wary of as I'm getting into the narrow section of this wedge is that as long as I have enough room to hit my targets before I get to the opposite side, that's the only thing that I'm really looking for. Okay, all right, so there you have it. So that one's shaping up nicely. That's the US yen. Let's move along. Let's have a look at the US CAD. Okay, let me just zoom out. Okay, I can see here on a daily on my US CAD that I've got 1 touch, 2 touches. I've got 1 and 2 up there. So I would consider this a valid pattern right now, which basically means that what I would be looking for, the first tradable opportunity is the one that's coming up right now. So if this market should fall, comes up to here on this line, again for the same reasons that we of the last one that I just explained, we would attempt to trade that way once I get a price action confirmation pattern on that perimeter. Okay, so this was looking really good. That's a nice pattern. When I see these, sometimes we can get 2-3 trades out of it. They're very nice to trade. I particularly like channels. Sloping channels are my favorite. They tend to give me the highest probability as well. So this one's one that's definitely on my radar right now. I'll leave these lines on this chart so that when I come back, it's easy for me to see where the trade is at, how close we are to a trigger or not. GBP USD. Okay, you can see that I've got my line up there. We were looking for a double top to hit it this way. It didn't quite come. We got close, but it didn't play out. So it's, well, nothing, no trade, nothing, no damage. Oh, let me see what's. I'm gonna just extend this line out again. And let's see if we attempt. The only thing, usually when you get when you've got so close to reaching a line and it does pull away, on the next attempt, usually it will go through. So I'm more reluctant to attempt a trade when the first time we didn't quite get there and it's pulled away. It's almost like the next time round it comes back with more momentum and more buyers. So and particularly also when you see that it's rejecting off the line, and if it starts to go up now, for example, it's rejecting off less and less. So it's an indication that there's less and less sellers in the market, and we are building up more buyers, and the push is going to be harder, and it can actually end up going through. So let's see what happens. So I'll just keep these markings on my chart, but essentially I don't have a trigger for this, so I will leave this one alone. That's the GBP USD. Kiwi US dollar. Let me zoom out first. Let's see what have I got here. Why have I got these lines on my charts? Okay, now I can see that that line was good. That was okay. That was okay. That was okay. This one here is starting to spoil it for me. We're just starting to get above it. So at this point, well, in any case, I didn't get in here. There is no pattern that says sell. So that's okay. So we got protection, and you can see that it looks like it's shooting through. So let's get rid of these lines right now as they're no longer in play for us. Let me zoom out. Let's see if we see anything new. At a quick glance, it feels like there's a nice falling wedge and almost like flaggish character about it. Let me see how it looks. It looks okay, not great, but acceptable. I don't think we're not getting a trigger though, so there's no trigger there for me to sell. I'm just going to leave the lines here, and what I'm hoping is that it starts to come down, but it's not. I don't have a signal to trade it right now, but I'm hoping that it comes down, and then when it reaches this side, then I will look for a trigger to see if I can take the trade as such. Okay, so I'm leaving the lines there. There is no trade on it right now, but that's kind of what I'm hoping for. That's the best thing that is forming. Let me just have a quick look on a 4-hour chart. No, I'll stick to the daily, and I'll stick to that original game plan that I just said. Okay, let me have a look at what have we got. Oil, WTI oil. How many? So this happened, I think the last class that we did was around about here somewhere. It got right to it, but look, unfortunately, that's not a signal to sell, even though it did reach the same level. Okay, and it pulled away. That's unfortunate because it looks like the market did fall down nicely. But that, again, no trade there. Let me just zoom out. Let's see what's happening here properly. This one's looking similar to one of those other ones that we just saw, where you get the feeling that there's a specific pattern that looks like a triangle where you have flat on one side and then the other side starts to incline up. Okay, so if this starts to do this, and typically when it breaks, it'll break down, and this distance here is what you can expect as a target. So with that in mind, I think it's just setting up right now. If I place this line across here, so essentially the triangle that I'm talking about would be there. What do we think, guys? Does that look alright to you? What are your thoughts? So if we were going to trade this, essentially, let me zoom in a little bit. The way that we would do it is I'm on a daily time scale, so I need to wait for this candle to finish. This is today's candle. So what I would be hoping for is to get an inside candle situation. So that green one right now is inside of the red one. So right now it's perfect. So if, as an example, tomorrow when we come and we look at this chart, this candle looks like this. Let's pretend it looks like this. Okay, well then what I would do is I would place my pending order at the break of the inside candle, and we would try and trade it in that direction as such. Okay, so definitely put this one on your watch list or your hot list of charts to look at. And if you've never traded WTI before, I suggest you go and take a demo trade like today, just so that you have an understanding of how big to size your trade, so that you don't accidentally take a larger trade than you were thinking about taking. Okay, so definitely if you've never traded WTI and you would like to participate on this one, go take a demo trade just so that you have an understanding on the size, on the trade size. Okay, there you have it. All right, let's have a look at gold. Okay. We can clearly see that right now we are in range. We are still in range, and I really want to leave that area before a clear direction takes place. And actually we're right in the middle of it right now. So either, let me just zoom in a bit and let's see if we can get a method. Either we have to, let me extend these out. We could possibly look for trades there and there as such in these directions, so don't discount those. The ranging area is clearly defined, so these two types of trades would be on the cards. Just keep an eye out on that. Right now we're right in the middle, so there's no action to be taken right at this particular point in time, but let's just add it to the watch list because this one can definitely play out. Okay, last but not least, let's have a look at the S&P 500. Oh, this chart's looking horrible. Okay, S&P 500, I'm doing nothing, not interested in this chart at all. Okay guys, I'll give you a moment to type in any questions which you have. If you want me to have a look at something, let me know, and I will answer them for you while I go back and I recap what we've seen. Aussie US dollar, we've just drawn in a support line. It's not the greatest support lines, but it's not bad. Okay, let's see if we can come and meet it. We may get an opportunity to trade off it, but I get the feeling that we may be bottoming out and we could be looking for a change of direction, but that's not enough for me to take a trade on it, so all I've got is a support line. Euro USD, clearly we are in range mode, and the only opportunities that I would be interested in is range type trades off those perimeters. US yen, I've dropped into a 4-hour time frame, and I'm looking for an opportunity on the perimeter. So if this should fall tonight towards this area, then I'm interested in taking a long, provided that I get the price action reversal pattern at the perimeter. US CAD, this is a daily rising channel. We are far from the edges, but let's add it in. That's my favorite particular type of setup. So we're not there yet, but definitely I flagged it in. So when we reach those edges, let's see if we can execute. GBP USD, we are rising towards the top. This is one of those charts that it's just not really that nice. Let's leave it alone. Kiwi dollar, falling wedge on a daily time scale. Let's see if we can trigger something on these edges for an opportunity to trade back into the pattern. WTI on a daily, we are at the edge. We need to wait for today's candle to finish. Once it finishes, we could have the trigger tomorrow morning. Gold, we're in range mode. Let's wait for the edges. And finally, S&P 500, we're doing nothing. Okay guys, there you have it. Any questions? More than happy to answer anything. I've got a question about today's daily call. Just give me one moment. I've got to pull it up. What was it? GBP CAD, I think it was. There it is. The question is, I was confused about an engulfing and an inside candle. Okay, so let me zoom in. First of all, this is the chart, so go back and watch today's daily call if you're not sure. It's only a 2.5 minute video, and this was the identified trade. So let me zoom in. Now, this candle that I'm pointing at right now, this is today's candle. All right, so it started this morning at 8 o'clock in the morning. But if we have a look at the two candles before today, those two candles right there, we can clearly see that the blue one is bigger than the red one. It completely engulfs it. Okay, so in other words, the blue one looks something like this, all right, and the red one on the other side is inside of it. So, and you can see clearly that the low and the high of the blue one is swallowing up the red one. So then, therefore, this candle is what we call an engulfing candle. And when it is situated in the correct place, okay, so engulfing candles happen all the time. So you can't just take a trade based on an engulfing candle. But when it happens in the correct place, and I will direct you, if you go into the CSC Traders trading portal education program, I think it's strategy 6 and 5 or 4. It's the price action ones. Okay, go and look at it. This one is price action inside of a trend. Okay, so essentially what I'm saying is we're in a trend, we slope down, we slope down, we slope down, and then hopefully it kicks along. So at all these areas down here is where we're looking for the kick along. So for this particular case, the way that you would trade it is as soon as the new candle opens, like right there, bang, that's it. You're in the trade automatically straight away. Some people don't like to trade the engulfing candle. It's a little bit more aggressive. So what I said this morning was, let me just rub some things out so I don't confuse so many people. My chart's getting a bit messy. What I said this morning was, if in your trading plans you're allowed to trade the engulfing candle, well then it's there, it's ready to go. And if you're in this trade, you're probably already up about 15 odd pips on the trade. Okay. However, if you're a little bit more conservative, you can wait for the inside candle. So for example, today's candle may end up looking like something like this, for example. Okay. Which now you can see that the red candle is inside the blue one. All right. So therefore, if that was to happen, then tomorrow you would try and put your order in at the break of the inside candle. That's the other way that you would trade it. Now, however, if today's candle already goes above that level there, well then you won't get an inside candle and you've basically missed the trade altogether. All right. That's the downside. The plus side is it could end up closing down here and you get more opportunity to wait for a confirmation. So that's what I was trying to explain. Hopefully that answers your question. But go back, go watch that video. It's about an hour long. I think it's strategy number 5. It's 4, 5, or 6. I can't remember, but it's price action in trend. That's the title of it. Go watch it. Any other questions? Incidentally, can I just get a show of hands? Did anybody take this trade today? Somebody wants me to have a look at the Euro Swiss. I'll do that in one moment. Did anybody take this trade while I look for the Euro Swiss? Okay, Euro Swiss. Let me zoom out. Okay, when I zoom right out, the first thing I can see about this trade, and the first thing that I'm going to be looking for is a double top. Okay, so I'm going to be looking for a double top over there. So specifically, that's what my brain is looking for. So let's zoom in and let's see how close we are. So let's say, let me zoom in one more. Okay, so if I go there and I draw a line straight across, I'm very close, but I'm not quite. Okay, what I would like is the following. I would like this blue one to go up a little bit more, maybe like this, and give me a little wick there, say something like this, and then tomorrow get this like that, and then the following day I would like to trade the break down. There you have it, Euro Swiss. It's the thing, it's the highest probability trade that I can see on that one. Any other questions while you have me? What's my opinion on the Aussie US dollar? Okay, my opinion on the Aussie US dollar is pretty much what I've said. I only like to trade the technical side of things. So when I look at this chart, here it is, I'll just bring it up again. When I look at it, if anything, it's ranging in this area here. This could possibly be a bottom, but I need some confirmation to see if it goes that way. But I'm only going to trade what I see. From a fundamental point of view, it's very important, whatever happens to China with regards to this tariff implementation from the US side will affect us. Okay, so that's probably the biggest direction will come from there, from a fundamental point of view. Interest rates and things of that nature, it doesn't seem that Australia is in too much of a hurry to pull the trigger, even though other central banks have pulled the trigger on interest rates already. So there you have it. Again, I'll just remind you, I trade probably 90% is what I see. Only about 10% is the fundamental. That's for myself, but everybody's different, and you'll come to find your own balance of what suits you and what doesn't suit you. Question: do I have any favorite indicators? Okay, look, the reality is I trade price action is my preferred method, probably for about the last 3-4 years. And with price action, I technically don't need any indicators at all. When I show you my chart, so let me go back to the charts that I'll do all my analysis on. When you look at these charts, I have a fractal on my charts. I only use that really to assist you guys as the students so that I can draw your attention to which candle I want you to look at. I don't need the fractal, but I just have them on there to assist you. If you go and watch the price action, the 3 lessons, it's about 3 hours worth, there's 3 lessons there. I'll talk about it, and you'll understand the reasons why I have it, but it's specifically just to help you guys as a student. The moving averages that you see in the trend price action trend video, I define an uptrend or a downtrend by when these two moving averages cross over. There's many ways you can do it. There's no hard and fast rule. Mine's a 24 and a 12, I think. 12, and they're both where did my indicators go? They're both exponentials. Okay, and again, I just use them more to help the student focus the eye. The only other one that actually I've never actually talked about this, I'll talk about it right now quickly. This particular profile that I'm showing you here has got a zigzag indicator on it. I'll give you the settings. Give me one moment. It's got zigzag with a setting of 733. Okay, and the reason why that's just the settings that I like on it. The second part of the question is, why do I like this one? It just makes my eye really easy to see what's happening. So for example, let me just go through a couple of charts just to highlight to you what I'm talking about. So see, when I look at this chart really quickly, at a very quick glance, without wasting too much time, I can easily see this congestion, so I'm instantly looking for this type of trade, and it takes my eye about 2 seconds to see it. So as I skip through other charts, like I can see here, this is a head and shoulders very quickly to see. Okay, and it's all because of just the way that this chart looks. So I'm not using it. See here, you can see clearly that there's a little bit of a falling wedge. Very easy to see. I'm not using it for entry or anything else other than it helps my eye to identify things that I have an interest in. Okay, there you have it. Do I trade cryptos? Look, I may start to at the moment. The crypto market was really one-sided, and the technicals don't work very well. When you need people that want to buy and sell on both sides of the market for the charts to look good. So if I go to my crypto charts, let's have a quick look. So here's, for example, this is Bitcoin. Okay, it's starting to look. So before Christmas, basically this is the chart. It was just going in one direction. Okay, we had the big sell-off, and now from about here onwards, it's looking like a normal chart again. So I could possibly incorporate it for a Monday class and have a look at it. From here, it's starting to look like a normal chart, and this would be tradable. Okay, so that's the only reason that I haven't gone into it. Any final questions, guys, before we wrap it up? Remember, if you want to get the most out of the Monday class, I know that I just cover through the majors. If you have any questions that you pick up during the week, feel free to bring them and just keep them in a Word document or something like that, and then just paste them in so that you don't have to type them while we're here. Even if they're off topic, I'll do my best to answer them all. Alternatively, you can email us. Okay, just email me and I will respond to you. So the only thing that I ask is if you do email me any questions regarding charts, send me the chart. Don't tell me, okay, have a look at this candle on the 4th of July, etc. It's too hard for me. So screenshot your chart, ask me your question. I will draw on your chart and I'll send it back to you so that it's a chart that you're familiar with, and I'll correct anything that needs to be, or I'll reinforce anything that you've done correctly on that. Alright guys, let's wrap it up. I hope you all have a fantastic trading week. Watch the daily call so that you're up to date, specifically the chart of the day. The numbers have been really positive and strong this year. I think for the first quarter we ended up on somewhere nearly at 40% based on the parameters that I've chosen. Before I do wrap up, just remember the times of the important events for this week. And as I said, look, I hope you all have a great trading week, and I will talk to you all next week for the daily call. For the weekly class, or I'll talk to you tomorrow on the daily call. Bye for now.